Welcome to a very special episode of the Steward Chair. I'm your host, Jeff Bond. At 45, I often find myself standing in a unique position, right in the middle of two incredible worlds. On this one side, I have the honor of learning from our chief stewards, the seasoned CEOs, the founders, and the presidents of established companies who come on this show and teach us the decades of learning and modeling what resilience and long-term stewardship looks like in practice. On the other side, I have the absolute joy of working alongside the next generation of entrepreneurs who are learning and building a future with the spirit of hope and innovation. So today, I'm stepping out of the host chair to let you hear from two of these young leaders. Thomas Mastrototaro, our co-executive producer, and Daniel Mastrototaro, our managing editor of the Steward Chair, are the engines behind end-of-the-line productions. And these two guys have immersed themselves in every conversation on this show. And today, they're going to share their reflections on what they've learned it truly means to steward a business and all the stakeholders that it touches. I am so proud to work alongside them at Chat with Leaders Media, where we partner with our clients to elevate the human experiences through events and podcasts and executive communications. Our mission is to find the powerful storytelling that is woven into every one of these experiences. And this show is just one example of how we live that out. As you listen to Thomas and Daniel today reflect on this past year, I hope that you find the same hope in the next generation that I do. We really do have a bright future ahead with leaders like them. And with that, here are the Mastrototaro brothers. Take it away, fellas.
Thanks, Jeff, for that introduction. And for everyone else, welcome back to the Steward Chair. My name's Thomas Mastrototaro, and I'm one of the producers on the podcast.
And I'm Daniel Mastrototaro. I'm the managing editor.
So as we looked at this last year, we wanted to commemorate it with an episode where Daniel and I, as young entrepreneurs, got to reflect and react to some of the great insights that were given by the leaders that we had on the podcast. I mean, felt very fortunate to be able to just experience these insights firsthand. And another thing was that as we looked at all the episodes and reflected on them, a very common thread came through on each episode.
Yeah, we had a lot of amazing business leaders on the show this past year, and a very common thing that stuck out amongst a lot of them was that they all chose care over convenience for their employees.
That's right. Yeah, and as we look at that topic, we started to think, well, how does that break up? I mean, there's different types of cares and outcomes to that care. And so one was that care costs something, right? So in order to care, you are going to sacrifice something. It is not something that is always freely given by these leaders, but in the end, it was very advantageous for them and their people. The other was that care takes more time. There's a very common thread of patience amongst these leaders, and it isn't always what led to their success, but it is something that many times helped them retain their employees and grow their businesses to where they are today. And then the last one was that care builds people, but also places. There's tangible locations now that exist because of the level of care that some of these leaders put in and their work ethic in building something that was about bringing people together and striving for a greater purpose with their business. So as we dive into these, we would have loved to pick something from every episode. Unfortunately, we have time to go through 6 clips. So just join us along as we touch on these clips and talk about some of the great insights that these leaders gave us here throughout the first year of the Steward Chair.
All right, and with that, we'll jump right in, starting with Leslie Zinn from Arden's Garden.
The thing to understand about my mother, her currency in life was wellness. So she was so fulfilled. She didn't care what we were charging. She didn't care about the money. She just wanted to know that she was spreading health and wellness wherever we went. And the thing that was amazing that I was short-sighted to see at the time is that what we built with our customers was incredible loyalty. And that loyalty has served us the entire time that we have been open in so many ways.
So Leslie Zinn is the CEO of Arden's Gardens, a business that her mom started over 30 years ago. Now, what was just a kitchen business became something much greater. And at first, Leslie, what she's talking to here is how she maybe wasn't super patient about that at first to see her mom's vision about leading with mission and not margin.
Yeah, we're talking about having care over convenience. I think one of the best examples of that is choosing the mission over profits necessarily, right?
Yeah, I think this falls into the care cost something category as we consider how maybe there wasn't quite as much margin right in the beginning, and I know for us, this is something that we wrestle with as young entrepreneurs and business owners, which is, do you keep your mission forward even when you're trying to make ends meet or when you're trying to grow a business or scale? And one of the things that Leslie so gratefully points out here is that the wellness component of her business is more important than the revenue, because that is their brand. And now they have a loyal fan base that will always go to them because they know that they never compromised. And so that has built a much more long-lasting business model for them, which I think as we consider the way we grow and scale and what we want to be known for, that's something to remember and to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think it's something you see a lot, especially with ourselves and all other entrepreneurs starting a new business, is that the main thing on your mind is trying to have a positive first year of business. But you see it here, and it's when you care about your employees and you see them as more than just a dollar sign. And when you really emphasize the point of wellness, and when you really make that the mission of your business, then the people will come.
I know for us and for a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start their business, they're doing it because they want to create something that has purpose and something that's going to generate an impact. And actually, as I think of that, it leads me to our next clip. Steve Kars from King of Pops, something that I know you and I are all too familiar with, having been around the Georgia college campuses and seeing that rainbow umbrella. I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen that as well. Steve started a business with his brother making popsicles and pushing popsicles, and no one knows that entrepreneurial route better than someone who's literally out there on the field selling their product face to face with their consumers. So let's dive into his clip here and see what he had to say about being an entrepreneur.
But I do think it's ultimately a different job with a different compensation structure, and it is not.
You did say you didn't make any money in the early days, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think if you really kind of have done that work where you've looked yourself in the mirror and said, like, am I trying to work less? Because you can probably work less working for somebody else. Am I trying to make more money? You can probably make more money working for somebody else. If you really want to be the person that has that weight, which is a weight that allows for a lot of, I think, pride, but also a lot of pain and sleepless nights. Like if you're wanting that, like this is a good path.
So one thing we love about Steve was that he was one of our first episodes of the Steward Chair. And of course, as I mentioned, we're already big fans of his product. So getting to hear from an entrepreneur and his path to success was awesome. But it was really this clip that falls again into this category of care costing something that resonated with us, because we have to remind ourselves almost weekly, if not daily, that we're not doing this because, we want to work less. We want, more free time, or we want to make, as much money and shovel as much money into a 401k as possible. We're doing this because we want to make an impact. And if the cost is that we sleep less and we stress a little bit more here and there, then as entrepreneurs, that's something that just comes with the territory. But it's also just part of the path to success as well. You're not going to hear anyone in any of these clips not talk about a point in their life where that wasn't true. Mm-hmm. And I think his resolve to keep going in the midst of that and acknowledging that cost exists no matter how far along you get, because now he's ended up as the leader of this business and he still has to wrestle with those trade-offs, because there is no version of successful business ownership and stewardship really that is good for your people, that doesn't involve this cost and this burden.
One of the biggest things, and Steve's very honest about it, is the pressure around it, right? And the sacrifice and the uncertainty that comes with starting a business. And in those early stages, sometimes you are not sure if your mission or if your business strategy is right. And there's a lot of just stress around that. But knowing that every other entrepreneur who's starting their journey is also experiencing the same thing, knowing that you are doing it right if you are experiencing these things, then that's what kind of, despite all of the complications and the difficulties, you know that you're on a path towards success.
Yeah, that idea of pride and pain coexisting, I think, is a really good way to sum this up. And not so much a pain that makes you want to quit. I mean, there's days, I'm sure, for every entrepreneur where we have that. But it's more of that pain of this burden only can lead to something like being proud of what you've built.
Right.
And
learning
without that, it's not as fulfilling. I mean, we've been in the corporate landscape before this. We experience what it is to do something for someone else versus ourselves, and versus serving a client really well. Mm-hmm. And that is where I think a lot of the pride can come from, is just knowing that you've done a bang up job for a client, or that you're building something from scratch. And thankfully, in our case, we are surrounded by other people and guests like this that dish out some pretty awesome insight. But it's been a journey for sure. And it's just nice to have other entrepreneurs acknowledge that trade-off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we think of the type of costs that come with care, one of those main costs is time. One of the examples was actually in a more recent episode with Christy Kovac, who's the president and CEO of Sheridan Construction. She had a really great insight to share about, and really a story of how their patience led to retaining the client.
Let's take a look.
We've seen some of our competitors, not be successful on a project and take a client to task. And I just shake my head and go, no, that the best way to lose that client long term. So we interviewed for a project about 1.5 years ago, and we came in second. And we always do a debrief to see what we can learn to do better for the next one. But as we're doing that debrief, we want to make that customer client feel good about giving us the information. So took that, we continued to do work. This was a state organization, continued to do other work for this state organization. And because our teams did so well, when that project was not going so well that we came second in, they ended up canceling the contract and coming to us and said, will you take this on? And we said, absolutely, yes. So yes, being patient, taking the high road definitely pays off in the long run.
So again, that was Christy Kovac with Sheridan Construction. And basically she's describing a story where her business tried to do additional work with one of their clients, and they did not win that work. That went to another business, but they continued to excel and be present for all the other work that they've been doing with that client. And they reviewed what may have led to them not winning that client or that job for the client. And then when the other business didn't meet the expectations of the client, they were basically there waiting, ready to go, and they knew exactly who to go to. And for me, what stands out with that is there's really two markers of what I think was about patience, but even past that, I think a great reaction to losing work, which is, let's review what we did wrong. Let's review where we came up short. And that being their first natural instinct, I think is so brilliant, because a lot of times we take an L and then we go, well, I guess, it's just not a good fit for them. And really, we should, if we're in the right market, we should try to be the right fit for most people.
Yeah, I think it shows really strong leadership to, when you're placing a bid for a project and you don't get it, maybe your first instinct might be to point your finger at the client, right? And ask yourself, why would they not have picked us? Why would they not go with us when we're working with them on other projects already? And it could be really easy to just blame them, right? What did they do wrong? But it's great leadership when your first instinct is to look within and self-analyze and ask yourself and your team the hard questions, right? Like, why did we lose out on this project? How can we do better? And it shows that you don't have to have a super aggressively competitive attitude. You know, like her response she wasn't thinking, how can we do better than this competitor that just took this bid out from under us, you know? And it's just the tendency to not react emotionally when things don't go our way, and to just really take it as a chance to reflect on your credibility and where you currently are in your business. And it worked out, right? Because they bided their time. They weren't competitive or retaliatory. And that client came back to them in the end, and then they got that business.
Yeah. And that is going back to care being kind of the champion word of this whole conversation and recap. That is care, right? You're caring enough about your client to not, you know, to stay mature and to not retaliate in any way, like you said. But you also care enough about your own people in business to have them learn from the losses. You know, Christy had a really great resolve to patience of time and letting time pass and staying steadfast throughout that. But as we move on here to John Sensiba, you'll see a story of a leader who makes the most of his time and making sure that he's building up those around him. So let's dive into that.
Let's do it.
I think what's kept me in the role is just love of the people I work with and what I do, and the blessing it's been for me to have this opportunity, and the knowledge that you get better every day. And I want to get better, and I want to do better things, and I want to have a clearer vision, and I want to be able to communicate that vision in a more meaningful way so that people really find meaning and purpose in their work. We spend so much time doing the things that we do so that we can live in this society and pay for our homes and clothe our children and send them to school. And if you don't really find meaning in your work, which is the majority of your adult life, what a tragedy that is. So I try and get better at that every day. And I absolutely love what I do. If I hadn't 5.5 years ago told my partners that I was done in 6 years in this role, I probably would never leave because I love it that much.
Yeah, so I love this clip. I think John's message here is so important and so clear. And it's to make sure that you find the time to find meaning in your work, because it's something everyone acknowledges as we go into our adult life, that our work and our jobs and our careers are going to take up most of our life, right?
Yeah.
And it take up a lot of time. And an important way to grasp that fact and be okay with it is to find meaning in your work. And so many people struggle with this. And John tells us that it's a time commitment, right? It takes time to find the meaning in your work that keeps you coming every day. It keeps your morale high. It keeps you invigorated. It keeps you passionate about the mission for your business. It doesn't even have to be some crazy mission. Like John talks about it, how his meaning could be developing himself into a better communicator, into a better business leader, into developing himself into the best he can be at his career, and finding meaning in success and refining your vision and communicating that vision better to your team. That's the kind of meaning that can just remind you how important and how important and fulfilling stewardship can be.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think this idea of, as we think about care and how he cares for his business, there's this idea of how a leader in this space who feels this way about his work will be able to shape his people, not over one moment, not over, oh, hey, everyone's getting Christmas bonuses this year, so that whatnot. He'll shape them over the course of years. And I think them witnessing that, and someone who finds meaning in their work, and even at the end of his tenure there is almost wishing he could stay longer because he finds so much purpose in it. I think that really speaks to that mentality of putting in the time and putting in the effort to build up everyone around you, but really let them see the light that's shining through you and your work ethic, and however that is derived from, people will notice it.
Like John said, right? It's not instant. finding meaning is it's a long-term commitment. It's day to day. But on your journey to finding that meaning, you inspire and lift up other people around you to look for the same kind of meaning in their jobs. If we carry that attitude with us every day and every project we do, then you're going to spread that mindset to others. And that's a really important thing.
Yeah, that's so good. On that note, as we think about inspiring people, also, I kind of think about creating spaces for people, which is something our next guest did really well. Frank Patterson at Trillet Studios. I know for us, this was a big deal.
Yeah.
We were geeking out on this episode because we're big film guys. I mean, if I was to pan around this room, you would see the film memorabilia and everything that I have. And
A lot of films that were filmed at Trillet Studios.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
lots of the big blockbusters, Marvel movies. And actually on our episode, Superman was coming out, which was filmed there. And we even got to put a little promo clip together for Frank. And so just wanted to recap that because to us, that was just a dream opportunity to get to meet him. And then since then, having gone to work at Trillet Studios on a couple projects and even go and be at some of the events. So this was just a place, though, and an episode that really helped us learn that it isn't just about the clients that you bring in, these big studios and stuff like that, but it's about the people and the community that you build in order to attract those opportunities. And that is something Frank has done tremendously well. So let's dive into his clip and see what he has to say about community.
Let's do it.
I don't know how a great company becomes a great company if you don't first empower people. At Trilith, we set the stage and we enrich the lives of the story makers who inspire the world. The idea of building a place that has homes and restaurants and a beautiful wellness center. So no matter what studio facility you've shot at, when you come to Trilith, it's not just a facility, it's a place. And that placemaking turned out to be way more important than, the studio facilities.
Yeah. So I love that clip. Whatever editor put that together, really good at their job. But the thing, I love that clip so much, how Frank talks about empowering people, mainly by creating a place at Trilith where the cast and crew can live on the Trilith campus while they're working on a project. But the way that he talks about how that empowers people, it's really important because empowering your employees in your business, no matter what level these employees are at, you want any employee at any level to be as passionate and energized about the mission as the founder or any executive or CEO. You want everyone to be on the same page and all care just as much about the mission. And when you empower people, I think that's easily the best way to attain that, because when people are empowered, they're passionate. And when they're passionate, you put out the best work and you want the best results. And that way, you will always have the best communication on a team. You always have the best work ethic. You always have the highest morale if your leadership cares about empowering their employees.
Yeah, that's so good. And, we have some experience in the production industry, obviously, but even so, and, have PA'd for film sets and things like that. And, people who don't know, there's a huge morale booster around things like a good craft table, for example, right? And what Frank has basically done here is he's taken almost that concept of, hey, we're going to give back to our crew today and make sure that they feel taken care of and they feel like they're in a communal environment that they can enjoy and rest and kind of recharge. And we're gonna expand that to a community-sized pool of just different resources that allow them to just be their best selves and step into the best versions of themselves. And that's what Trillet Studios is, and that's what that town is. And it really is a town. And if you haven't been out there, we encourage you to go check it out because it's super impressive. And so that idea of care in this category being about empowering your people, in this case, it's through creating a place where they can do that.
Yeah.
And Frank will speak to this idea of this communal sitting around a fire and telling stories. It's in our DNA. It's a very human thing for us to do. And him basically creating a tangible area where that can be the case, and people, like you said, can live and work and be intentional with their work, no matter where they are on the list of cast and crew. I think that's really awesome, and I think speaks to us, not that we can provide that kind of resources to any of the people that work with us or our clients, as at least not for now. But it does give me this idea of where can we just provide spaces for people to be communal. One thing our host, Jeff Bond, did the other day, along with Quentin Thomas, is they invited our entire partner network out to a lunch where we could all sit together and talk and just communicate and empower each other and just reflect on this last year. And I think that is in a way synonymous to what this mentality that Frank brings with Trilla Studios is, which is let's get together and let's recharge. Let's talk about what we're doing, what we can do better, and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and each other, and considering how we can invite people to places that will help them step into their best work. And so that can be sometimes just an organization. It can just be a lunch. It can be like a weekly meeting call. But in this case, it's something much bigger than that. It's something really, really impressive. And so they can do it on a huge scale. But that scale, I think, it can be dynamic, and we can scale it down to even us and to creating something that invites anyone we work with, including ourselves, to step into our best work. So I love what Frank's saying there. I think it's why Trilla Studios has seen such great success, and why I know we're excited to even be heading there this week for an event.
Yeah. The Georgia Signature 100.
Yeah, we're looking forward to
Looking forward to it, yeah.
So as we think about investing in people, there was one clip, and it's probably the clip I've quoted the most to you and the team throughout the year, but to myself, to my spouse. I think Miran Oka at Oka Aquatics, she has one of the most amazing stories of all the entrepreneurs that we have talked to this year. She was a single mom at one point and getting this business started, and there was a great fluidity, and no pun intended with it being a swim school, but there was a great fluidity to how she scaled it, and it's a really amazing story. But what's sticks out more than anything is how she invests and thinks about people. So let's dive into this clip. Again, no pun intended. And let's see what she has to say.
It's a great episode. Let's do it.
And again, we're looking for people who are positive, hard workers, great character. They don't have to know how to swim. I don't care if they know how to swim.
I was going to ask you about that because you told me that last time, and I'm like, okay, you hire people that may not know how to swim.
Yes.
So I'm glad you went there. Let's hear more about that.
Well, I can teach them to swim. That is easy for me, but we just want the right kind of people. Really positive, really excited, just really people who, we all know those people, we can picture them in our minds. They're just, when they walk into a room, they light it up. That's what we want. And then we can get them in the pool. We can help them learn how to swim. We can then help them get trained to teach, and we can get them certified. And those are the ones that stay with us the longest because they learned how to swim. They understand how it feels to be in that learning environment and what it feels like to not know how to swim and to actually learn it. So we've done that so much, and it's been great.
So that is so awesome, knowing that we have business leaders like Miran out there running a swim school who, they don't even care if you can't swim and you want to work at a swim school. She cares about character, and she sees character and drive and passion as the most important things for hiring somebody, right? And we all wish that was the case, right? Because I know in the past we've all looked at a job application and I've just been so just beaten down by requirements and prerequisites and years of experience that we need to feel comfortable about pursuing a certain career. But she cares about developing more than credibility, right? Or she cares more about passion than qualifications. And that's something that you just really never see anymore. I feel like a lot of leaders, when they hire, they want to know that the person they're hiring is already proficient in what they're hiring them to do. And a lot of what you see in, you see companies hiring entry-level positions where they offer to train them up, right? But a lot of the time you see companies take advantage of people in that position who need to be trained up, right? And they're oftentimes underpaid. But here we see someone who purely cares about building people up and turning them into a proficient worker, even if they don't start that way.
Right. And actually, to that point, she's even gone on in the same episode to talk about the retainment of these people. So it's not that, oh, they learn to swim, they work for a summer, and they're out of there. A lot of them they stick around and they love their job, and it's like a community, and they're also employee-owned business now. So she really cares about her people, and it really starts with something like this, right? Which is looking at someone, as you said, their character. That's so important. And I think when we look at, okay, if we're ever to scale, or the people we work with, or the partners that are part of our network, like, to me, it's become very evident, especially with how easily it is to get taken advantage of in this world. And as we've learned, that it is so important to look at people's character first. I mean, if it's all about, oh, what can you do for me? Or what can you bring to my business? Or how is this going to pad my pockets? You're probably going to end up with employees or partners or different variety of individuals who just aren't really worried about doing the most they can for either you or your clients. Mm-hmm. So this idea of, hey, I like your ethic, I like the work that you're willing to put in, and I like the fact that you are showing up and deciding to learn a new skill that you don't know. I think that's a great marker of a great employee, and she has recognized that, and it has been very successful for her. This model has worked time and time again. And it also, I think one thing that we didn't note at first, which I found interesting when we rewatched the clip, is it speaks to her confidence in the skills that she's teaching, because she just says it without even thinking twice. Oh, I can teach them how to swim. She's so confident in her ability to teach, and which is the core of her business model, that she doesn't mind hiring people without that. And I think that says something. It's like if you and I were like, oh, we like this guy, he's never held a camera, but we're so confident in our ability to teach them how to run a camera that we hire them anyway. And it just speaks to our ability to teach, our ability around what we are selling, which is, in our case, videography. In her case, it's swim lessons. So it comes back, that level of care. I don't even think she does it for that reason. From our conversation with her, I think it's because she genuinely cares. Mm-hmm. She cares about growing these people. She cares about seeing them be successful and learn a new skill and teach that skill to others, and create their own relationships with their clients and the kids that they're teaching how to swim. I think that in itself, we're talking about a business and an episode that encompasses almost everything we've talked about. It's this one. I mean, it's really, you see the purpose in it. You see the story of patience and how it took time. Mm-hmm. You see her ability to create a place that invites people in a communal experience, right? And honestly, you see a cost to everything that she did and all the sacrifices she made, so that it wasn't just about her, but the people that joined her business and the people that believe in her mission. But I think she's just such an awesome example for us to end on here. One to consider, and one to look at as we consider who we'd love to have on future shows and how we ultimately want to run our own business. So yes, thank you, Miran, for your time on that episode. It was greatly effective to both of us.
And with that, we just want to thank you guys for tuning in to the 2025 recap episode of the Steward Chair, and thank you for tuning in to all the other episodes this year as well. We've met some truly amazing business leaders who have been creating a legacy and culture of stewardship in their businesses, and it's been a privilege to hear about it and learn so much from it.
Yeah, and as we look forward to 2026, we've got some really amazing episodes coming y'all's way. I know Danny has already been hard at work editing them, and he probably has a couple hints he could give us, but I think he's going to save them for the beginning of January. So stay tuned as we bring more insights from leaders of different industries with long-term thinking in mind, who are committing to do good work well.
What an incredible gift it is to be reminded of the heart behind the production of this show and the incredible team I get to work with every day. Thomas, Daniel, thank you guys for your insights, for all the efforts throughout the year. I also want to shout out Quentin Thomas, our co-executive producer, my business partner at Chat with Leaders Media, for all of the contributions that you've made to make the content from the Steward Chair possible. It's been such a gift to work with you guys this year. You know, as we listen to these reflections on care, I think it's important to remember that for every business owner, every CEO or president, stewardship is not about sacrificing margin or ignoring profit. It's about recognizing the common thread of humanity that connects the financial results to the daily choices that you make while navigating your business through every season. The leaders that we've studied and we've spoken to on this show, they've told us that building a long-term and resilient company, it requires a specific mindset. A mindset that understands profit is the fuel, but stewardship is the engine. And when we prioritize the people and the purpose behind our work, we create organizations that don't just succeed, but they endure. So as you head into your next board meeting or your next big strategic decision, I hope that you carry the mindset of playing the long game. I'm your host of the Steward Chair, Jeff Bond. Thank you so much for being part of this journey and this community with us. We look forward to creating content like this well into the future. Wishing you a year full of joy and abundant growth. Now go and be a leader worth following.